US President Joe Biden has warned, and I'm quoting here, dire consequences if the Republican runner Donald Trump wins the elections. The statement came at the heels of the dueling rally that the two runners held in Georgia on Saturday. Georgia marked the first face-off the US general election. Separately, President Biden also took aim at Trump for supporting Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He accused the Republican contestant of batting for dictators and authoritarian regimes. As the drama unfolds, President Biden continues to face the Republican wrath for the US support of Israel in its war in Gaza. Former US President and Republican presidential contestant Donald Trump hit out at the US President Joe Biden in public rally in Georgia. Addressing the crowd, Trump said that Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. He weaponized the government and weaponized the FBI. Donald Trump is expected to win the Republican Party's nomination on Tuesday, when Georgia, along with Mississippi and Washington states, hold nominating competitions. The U.S. Central Command said in a statement that the U.S. Army vessel General Frank S. Besson departed jointly base en route the Eastern Mediterranean in a bid to provide humanitarian aid to Gaza by the sea. Besson, a logistics support vessel carrying equipment for the establishment of a temporary pier for the eve delivery of important humanitarian supplies. The US's Special Envoy to Sudan will visit Africa and West Asian nations from March 11th to March 25th, announcing his visit with a video released on the social media platform X. He said that it came from the urgent need to end this war and get humanitarian access to all the Sudanese people. He will also visit Uganda, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Kenya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Poland has now said that the presence of NATO troops in Ukraine is not unthinkable. This is the clearest indication of a possible and direct NATO involvement in the Ukraine war. Poland's foreign minister made the comments during an event marking 25th anniversary of Poland's accession to NATO. French President Emmanuel Macron for not ruling out this possibility in a public statement earlier this month. On the battlefield, Ukraine has already admitted that it is outgunned and outnumbered by the Russian forces. Aid from the United States is blocked and ammunition from the European Union is slowing down. Ukraine says delay in aid is costing the country more lives and territory. Scuffles broke out in Tel Aviv as demonstrators, angry at how the Israeli government is handling the war in Gaza, they marched towards the main highway of the city. Thousands of Israelis attended twin weekly rallies. The main demonstration took place in Kaplan Street, which is also the site of last year's massive demonstrations. At an anti-government protest, some demonstrators blocked a highway and were dragged away by the police. According to the Israeli media, 16 demonstrators were arrested for disturbing the peace in Tel Aviv. Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari has said that the naval dock is intending to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza after it undergoes full Israeli inspection. charity workers loaded relief supplies bound for Gaza in Cyprus as a part of an international effort to launch a maritime corridor to Palestinian population on the brink of famine. The European Commission had said that a maritime aid corridor between Cyprus and Gaza could start operating as early as this weekend. After Canada, Sweden has now announced that it will resume funding to the UNRWA. And this comes weeks after 16 countries, including US, paused funds to the UN agency. That is after Israel accused that at least 12 of its staffers of being involved in the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Sweden will give UNRWA half of the $38 million funding that it had promised for this year, with more to come. And in return, it has called for more checks on spending of funds as well as its staffers. The country's reversal, it comes as a ship bearing tons of humanitarian aid was preparing to leave Cyprus for Gaza. Moving on, as tensions continue to soar in Gaza, there seems to be no signs of a ceasefire. Gazans in the distressed strip have started decorating their makeshift tents ahead of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The Hamas militants, they've called for protest marches from around the Islamic world to mark the start of Ramadan on Monday, while Israel has stopped Palestinians from praying at Al-Aqsa. US President Joe Biden has said that a truce is now, and I'm quoting here, looking tough. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in Islam after Mecca and Medina. Iraq is set to inaugurate a new church built near the ancient city of Ur. And this comes as parts of efforts to lure back pilgrims to the country. The construction of the church is expected to be completed by this month. Iraq is home to one of the oldest Christian communities. In fact, in 2021, Pope Francis, on his visit to the city of Ur, held an inter-religious prayer at a site. The site is believed to be the birthplace of Prophet Abraham, the father of Christianity, Judaism and Islam. Several hundred demonstrators took to the streets in Berlin to demand the release of a recently arrested former member of Germany's Red Army faction militant group who was on the run for 3 decades. 65-year-old Daniel Klett was arrested in a Berlin apartment on 26th of February. A statement from the Attorney General's office citing the arrest warrant said that Klett took part in 3 RAF attacks between 1990 and 1993. Founded by Andreas Bader, it is, among others, the far-left RAF's first generation emerged from German student demonstrations of the late 1960s. Thousands of people took to the streets of Rome's historic center to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Waving rainbow, peace and Palestinian flags, the demonstrators marched from Piazza della Repubblica to Via dei Fori. And they were shouting slogans to demand a stop to what they call genocide in Gaza. They also demanded humanitarian assistance to the population of Gaza. Thousands of people marched through central London on Saturday, calling for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The demonstrators headed from Hyde Park to the US Embassy, demanded ceasefire now with banners and flags. The weekly protest was held as Gaza's 2.3 million population continues to struggle for food and other essentials, and more than 500,000 currently face starvation, according to the United Nations. Now, according to the Hamas's health ministry, over 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, meanwhile, other countries, including Jordan, France, UAE, Egypt, they continue to airdrop humanitarian aid supplies in war-torn Palestinian territory. Last week, the US too began airdrops of aid for Gaza. Meanwhile, hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators marched in Paris demanding ceasefire in Gaza. One of the demonstrators criticized dropping of aid in Gaza, saying that the Gazans were being considered like animals. Various countries, including France, Jordan and the United States, have airdropped aid in Gaza as access to land still remains limited. French President Emmanuel Macron's political party, Renaissance, it has kicked off its campaign for the European elections. Macron's party has chosen EU Parliament member Valérie Hare to lead the list for the June 9th elections. According to the opinion polls, Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National is said to make large gains in the elections, and it could pose a major challenge to France's mainstream parties. France's far-right party has benefited from issues such as cost of living crisis, rising immigration, farmers' anger over red tape and high costs, and resentment towards the political elite. Spanish Prime Minister said that he will propose that Spain's parliament recognizes a Palestinian state. Sanchez added his voice to a chorus of other European leaders and government officials who have said that they could support a two-state solution in West Asia as international frustration grows with Israel's offensive in the Gaza Strip. The Spanish Prime Minister also stressed that Spain demanded respect for international law from Russia and from Israel. He made the comments at a rights conference in the city of Bilbao as aid shipments were headed for Gaza amid the humanitarian crisis. In a surprising move just weeks before elections in India, Election Commissioner Arun Goel has resigned. Following the resignation, according to reports, the meeting to pick the new election commissioner will be held on March 15th. The poll body already had a vacancy and will now be left only with Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar. Goel repeatedly cited personal reasons while resigning, adding that the government tried to persuade him not to quit, but he insisted. Leaders of the opposition bloc were quick to react to the resignation. Congress expressed deep concerns over Goel's resignation and said that if the systematic decimation of independent institutions is not stopped, then democracy shall be usurped by dictatorship. In India's capital of Delhi, a child fell into a 50-foot deep borewell on Saturday. As per the city's fire service, the child fell inside the Delhi Water Boards plant. As per rescuers, 5 fire tenders were rushed to the site on immediate effect. Teams from the Delhi Fire Service, National Disaster Response Force and Delhi Police were also on site. The rescuers were digging a borewell parallel to the one where the child fell to pull him out. However, as per rescuers, this could be a long-drawn operation. China's top political advisory, Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, wrapped up its annual session in Beijing. Chairman Wang Huneng delivered a speech at the body's closing ceremony in the Great Hall of the People. reaffirming the country's commitment to striving for a socialist modern country and great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation under President Xi Jinping's leadership. The meeting was attended by Xi Jinping, Chinese Premier Li Qiang, and other Chinese leaders. The CPPCC is an integral part of China's system of multi-party cooperation and political consultation under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. The annual session of the CPPCC National Committee opened on March 4th. China's People Liberation Army will intensify its troops training and also enhance its combat readiness as they are determined to fight against any movement of Taiwan's independence. The statement was made by PLA's spokesperson, and the remarks comes after the latest US arms sales and US congressmen's visits to Taiwan. Earlier this year, Taiwan's announcement about seeking to buy a new package of Stinger missiles from the US to strengthen its military strength. Now, Taiwan is a key issue plaguing ties between Beijing and Western capitals. Beijing, under the One China policy, sees Taiwan as its own province, and it has promised to eventually unify the island with the mainland. China has never renounced using force to seize control of the island. After witnessing demonstrations, vandalism and unrest, Senegal is now gearing up for the 2024 presidential polls, which comes after much delay. The presidential poll contestants have begun their short-term campaigns in capital Dakar after the court confirmed the election to be held on March 24th. Former mayor and opposition's presidential contestant Khalifa Sall kick-started his campaign with a public rally on Saturday. Sall has also promised institutional reforms in order to avoid crisis in the future. A total of 19 contestants are in the poll fray, and contesting parties have only 2 weeks to garner mass support. The election campaign is taking place for the first time during the holy month of Ramadan. Widespread gang violence in Haiti continues to create chaos. A state of emergency has been imposed in the region since last week. In the latest, heavy gunfire was reported near Haiti's National Palace in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Signs of a battle near National Palace were everywhere in the capital, where families fled the city in terror. The police, armed with assault rifles, patrolled the area in armored vehicles on streets covered with bullet shells. Armed gangs are calling to overthrow the government of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. He's currently in Kenya, apparently unable to return to the country and struggling to rally international support. Streets and homes are flooded in the Bolivian capital, La Paz. Due to heavy rains overflowing Hualani River, machinery deployed by the local government tried to clean rubble carried by water in the flooded streets. Locals were seen taking their belongings from their homes amidst the strong currents of water. According to reports, at least one person has died. Eugene Levy received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on Friday in Los Angeles. His daughter, actor Sarah Levy, and actor Catherine O'Hara, who both co-starred with Levy in Schitt's Creek, were at the event. The trio complimented each other for their achievements in Hollywood.